Cool. We good to roll? Yeah, cool. So thank you everybody very much for coming. So hopefully this will be useful for everybody. I'm not going to PowerPoint you to death. I'm also not just going to be talking at you. If you have questions, make it a conversation. That's great. That's kind of what I'm hoping to get from this. I want to make sure that these actually are also useful for everybody. So I do have a couple of questions for you. And if you go to the Meetup website, there's actually a poll page. There's actually a poll page where you can use references for upcoming meetings. Right now, the Revit User Group, they use the track space every time. So I've been talking to them to see what's involved with going through with that. If you prefer to have it be mixed up each time, like right now, Sciame was gracious enough to host it. If you want to actually move around, have different people within the group host it, great. I also want to find out what everybody here is interested in. I know that different toys and tools and software that I'm interested in, but I don't want to bore everybody, so definitely make it open for everybody. So there's a poll here. There's also the discussion pages, so you can post your suggestions and other ideas, and then we can actually figure out what everybody wants and set up the next one. Any comments or questions on that? All right.
What do you like the most about BIM?
Honestly, I like the fact that everything's connected. It's not as powerful in some respects as Navisworks yet, but the fact that anything I do is automatically updated and everybody else can access and see it. Also, it's a little bit more comfortable with working back and forth with changes back to the authoring tool like Revit. So Navisworks does have a switchback tool, but I can actually just open up the clashes inside of Revit, and that's one of the things I'm actually going to show. Anything else to start with? No? Cool. I can get rid of this little thing here. Also, I've actually done this before. So I want to say thank you for the two different sponsors for hosting the space at Sciame, as well as Microdesk for hosting all the pizza and food, pizza and soda, which actually got hit pretty well. So, did you want to do your spiel?
Oh, okay, thank you. But on our main side, that we offer rating solutions. We have a lot of clients coming to us that need extra help, especially during crunch time. So Microdesk is really, really strong tech team. A lot of our consultants are out in the field. And Sarah and Lee here, who, as well as Peter, who are out in the field almost every day helping our clients with projects, helping them build models and supplementing their teams or doing all that kind of stuff. So feel free to reach out to us if you guys ever need any technical help. If you have questions, always very eager to help.
So, moving forward, got BIM 360. Just a quick idea from the audience. How many people here actually have heard of BIM 360 and know what it is? Okay, so unfortunately the minority. If you've heard of Autodesk 360, that's kind of what their moniker is for all their cloud solutions. So they're not trying to make a video game platform, that's just what they've turned to. So most of the stuff in 360 is free. They're technically free with your subscription. So for architects, they have free rendering in the cloud. They got environmental analysis. There's also structural analysis. They have a cloud storage solution. So it's in a way, it's kind of like a Dropbox. So there's a bunch of different things on there. Those come with your sub. BIM 360 is sort of a different service. It's an additional cost, but it actually is doing, in some cases, more work. The analysis tools are sort of this offloading processing power. These are actually things where you're working on at the same time. And currently, there's two tools. One of them is BIM 360 Glue. If you've ever heard of horizontal glue, that's that. The other one is BIM 360 Field. If you've ever heard of Vela, that's that. So the two of them kind of, they're currently separate, but they work together. Autodesk is in the process of, I don't say merging them, but making them talk to each other a little bit more readily. So that way you don't have to update things or upload, to two different places. Essentially for Glue, this is sort of like the Autodesk one, so mostly the typical chatter about it. The main thing about it is that you're uploading your models into the cloud. You're not just uploading them to share them or store them, but you're uploading them there to view. So then you have the mobile app, which I'm actually going to show on the iPad. Currently there is no Android app for it yet. And this is one of those things where if you are looking at Android for your firm, or you would prefer Android, definitely tell Autodesk that. The more feedback that they're going to get, the more they'll push that in terms of developing for it. So I keep poking them whenever I see them, but I don't know how much that helps. So views, okay. So main differences here. A lot of the times when you hear about BIM 360 Glue, and I promise I'm not going to keep going through paragraphs, but the main difference is that you look at it as a Navisworks in the cloud mode. So if everybody here has been to a coordination meeting where you're using Navisworks, you'll probably lock everybody in the same room, hopefully nobody gets killed, and actually go through a couple hundred, if not a couple of thousand clashes. And while you're waiting your turn, you might be sitting there for an hour or two because they're going through clashes that really concern somebody else or have nothing to do with your work. Now the thing with that is that all your files are coming to one person. They're bringing it together, it goes through, and then everybody comes together on that one day and reviews it. Now, not everybody has Navisworks, nor is everybody working together with Navisworks. You pretty much, unlike Revit, you pull it together, you work on it, and maybe an NWF, which has all the other files linked into it, but no one else is in it at the same time. And if you want to give it to somebody, you send it to them, they do their work, and now they're working sort of like in a separate line or separate chain. You're not really pulling those together and combining everything. The difference with Glue is that because it's in the cloud, I run my Flash and it's available for everybody else. Everybody uploads their files, and I'm consistently able to run my own Flashes. Now, it doesn't do the exact same thing as Navisworks, and it does some things that Navisworks doesn't do. But the benefit is when you get to that Friday meeting that you're probably going to have anyway, maybe rather than 1,000 Flashes, maybe you only have 500. And of that 500, you have ones that really needed everyone to sit down and communicate about. So it's not looking to replace it just yet, but it's looking to actually work with that and make it better, or at least make it more efficient when you're getting together. So far so good? Any questions, Rand?
Absolutely. Everything has to go through the web.
Yes. Yeah. Right now, usually I'll say one of two things. It's either cloud powered or it's a cloud tool. So right now, everything with Glue is running on the internet. You have a launcher that you'll have to actually run on your PC. So right now it is partially PC-based. You can actually run it through a browser, but you're not going to get the full experience. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second.
That's the BIM field, right? It's like the BIM field importer?
Actually, no. Field has a special importer, but for Glue, you actually just upload through Revit. Cool. So switch over to the software. So I'm going to hop into Revit first if I can figure out which one of these it is. There we go. So, actually, just inside of a Revit file, this has some MEP in it. I've got a couple of different views. And what I've actually done is I've created specific views inside of here. So let's say you have a file that has mechanical, electrical, plumbing all in one. If you wanted to export that to Navis, you can pretty much either open it up in Navisworks or export out to an NWC, and then you can find all the data inside of it. Now, when you're uploading to Glue, it's a little bit different. Glue cannot read a Revit file natively. So if you want to use Glue as like a Dropbox where I can upload it, somebody else can just download it and view it and open it, no problem. But if I want to actually view the file as a 3D element online, what I need to actually do is use an add-in that I'm installing here. That allows me to pick which views of my model I want to upload. So in my case, I've actually got an electrical view, a mechanical view, and a plumbing view. This allows me to essentially separate my Revit file into 3 separate files. So I can easily say, you know what, maybe we have different things that are working on. So the project is only being worked on in different locations. And maybe we're only working on the 3rd floor, and then the 4th floor, and the 5th floor. Rather than uploading the entirety of that file, I'm uploading portions of it. And those portions are defined by views. So in my case, it's just turning on or off different categories. But if you use the 3D section box, I can literally slice my building into different compartments or areas. So that way I have a little bit more control in terms of how I do that. So essentially from here I would just go to Glue. It would ask me to log into 360 with my username so it understands what projects I have access to. Also, if there's a little bit of a delay, keep in mind I'm actually running through a phone right now. So once I get here, I see all the projects I have. I tell it I want to go to this one.
Okay, one question. When you select your own server, right? What kind of server is that? Is that a Glue server?
Yeah, it's a, the term is host, but same kind of idea, yeah.
Or is it a Revit server?
Oh, no, not Revit servers, whole separate thing.
Oh,
Think of it like you're going to my website versus his website, or like an FTP server. It's that kind of a thing. And then I would pick which specific views I actually want to upload. In this case, I'd look at my 3D views. So if I pick those two, I would say next. And then because it's already been uploaded, I see a glass glued. Once I say glue it, it's going to ask me, do I want to save this as a new file, or do I want to update the old one? The reason being is that this actually keeps track of versioning. So once I'm actually in the glue service or on that site, I can say, well, show me the one from last week versus the one from today. So I can actually keep track of that. And it'll let me know graphically which one I'm looking at as well.
Does it work with file names?
Honestly, it could care less about the file name. It's the view name that's key. So that's the only reason I named a glue underscore for this, so that they're all grouped together inside of Revit. And also so that way when I export it, I don't have to come in here and rename it.
So let's say you're using AutoCAD.
Yep.
You know, obviously we always change the date and everything in that sense. So will you have to always export and save again as that previous file?
No, if you're uploading it from AutoCAD, you can just change the name of that
While you do
in the process. Right? Like right here, if I didn't want this to be glue piping, or I wanted it to, I didn't want to get the prompt. I wanted to have this as an alternate. I would just go, off.
Right.
And now because that name doesn't exist up there yet, or it's not in that same folder structure, it would just upload it. It wouldn't ask you to override it or update it.
Big brand new file.
You got it. I'm just going to cancel this for a second. And I'm actually going to switch over to glue. Now, again, this is currently PC only. If you're running it on a Mac, not a problem, but you'd have to run it in something like Boot Camp or Parallels. So this is currently it's a launcher that you install, but all the heavy lifting and all the work is done on the internet. I can also view this through the internet, and I'll show you that in a little bit later.
So you're not physically uploading and downloading every single time you want to view a file from model?
No, I'm only uploading whenever I want to actually send new files or new data. I'm only downloading if I actually want to pull the files back down. And in this case, I'm looking at my projects that I have access. You can see some of these have orange. That orange is telling me what's changed since the last time I looked at them. So I've got new views. It tells me who that person is that created them. In this case, Randy actually created a couple of flashes. I made a whole bunch of views. And I can run through all of them. So if I look at this one, that'll open up. And then it's actually going to show me two different things, merged files and models. So everybody here is relatively familiar with Navisworks, right? Okay. So if I say append, everybody knows what I mean? Perfect. The merged, oh, lovely. So the merged model is basically a couple of models appended. So rather than every time I log in, I want to say I want to look at this one, this one, this one, and that one, it just saves that section. So that way I don't have to do it every time. So think of it like a shortcut. And the other one is all the different models that I've uploaded. Now the thing is, I can upload a lot more than just models. So I log in. If anything does go wrong, I blame his service. There we go. So essentially what I'm looking at are the different files, merge models here. Those are my models. This is also my activities. So if you're just logging in, you can actually see who's been uploading, who's been doing work, who's been changing things. Also, if you have people in your office that know how to program, the API for this is open, meaning that if you wanted to pull those activities out and create your own website, create something on your project page, or just create reports from this, that's something that you actually can do. So from here, if I actually look at my models real quick, what this is going to do is actually show me the different folder structure that I created. If I want to, I can just go to this. Makes it a little bit easier to see. But I've also created a folder for documents. You're not going to be able to view this in essentially like a 3D viewer. But if I wanted to, I can upload images, Word files, PDFs, just as a method of sharing that with everybody else in the team. So rather than putting stuff here, 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 and here all over the place on the internet, I can have at least one consistent location where everybody's working on stuff. I'm going to hop over to my merge models real quick. And I'm going to pick my MEP file. So this is actually going to open up this file, or this appended setup. Once it starts to opening, you're going to see a little thing on the bottom there, right around where it says privacy policy. And it's going to tell me, okay, I'm opening up this file, then I'm opening up this file, then I'm opening up that file. So it's actually going to run through the three different pieces that I've appended together. In this case, it's that HVAC, the electrical, and the plumbing from the Revit file that I was looking at. And this is going to be really big because of the resolution. Give me 1 second while this finishes rendering. Now, while you're actually in this, the navigation, pretty much the same thing as you'll find in Revit or in Navisworks. You hold down the middle mouse button, you can move, pan, orbit, holding down shift, things like that. The interface is actually pretty simple. And if you've seen this maybe 6 months ago, this is going to look pretty different from what it used to. They're trying to make things a little bit more user-friendly and less complex, so you don't have any ribbons all over the place. So they're also changing fields in some respects to match them. In this case, I'm just looking at all the activities again. This is something I can set up notifications on certain things. So I'm looking at my 3 models. If I click on one of these, it actually highlights all the content in that model. I can also come over here and tell it that I like to make it transparent, fit the window. I can add attachments to elements. And I'll show you a little bit more on that in a second. I can also view the versions of this. So currently I'm on my 5th version. If I wanted to look at one of the older ones, I'm going to just check that, either download it or double click on it and it'll open. And if I actually do tell it to look at the older one, I'm going to get a little warning sign up there that tells me I'm not actually looking at the most recent version. Now, the reason why that warning sign is important is because anytime I do something inside of here, like make a clash, save different views, I can actually send an email to somebody. Just click this, check the box of the people that are assigned to my project, and it'll go to them. Now, if I send an email to a person with a markup saying this is a problem, and I send it to them, and by the time that they actually log in, it's not a problem anymore, I'm probably not going to look very intelligent. That link that I send them takes them to exactly what I wanted them to look at. And if during that time that they log in finally, it'll actually show them, oh yeah, well you're not looking at the most recent thing. This is what they wanted you to see, but you might want to upload the file, update the files, and actually see if that's still a problem or if that's still, actually relevant. So disable my views. Yeah, actually go back here. Actually, do that. Sure.
You said somebody can open that up and the latest version.
Yeah.
Why would you want that?
Why would I want what?
Why would you want to open up to a version that's not the latest version?
Partially if you wanted to see what changed between versions. The other reason is if I make a markup or I send you an image or like I want you to focus on something, that image is going to show you exactly what I intended, as opposed to maybe things have changed from that point. So at the very least, it's going to show you what I wanted you to, and then from there you can actually say, well, show me the most modern thing, and maybe it's not a problem anymore. So it's mostly just to make sure that what I'm sending you is what I expect you to see, as opposed to, things are changing between them. So it also tries to make it a little bit easier in that when I send you that link, you get the link. It's not like you log in like I did, you pick which file you go to, then you pick which merge model. It takes you directly to that view. So in many ways, it's like a snapshot in time. So I've got my models here. I can turn things on and off. I can come over here and actually choose different views, different setups. I can also come in here and actually change different things. One more time. I'll actually grab that. I can come over here and actually color code different elements. So if I do want to actually see things, maybe it'll make it a little bit easier to show people. If I'm in a meeting with a client, I'll actually do this. Back in there, I've got a couple of files saved. Open up the views. So that's just the saved view that I created that color-coded each discipline. So I can easily hop in and see what's what. And if I needed to actually cut things up, I can always come in here and actually add a section similar to how I would in Navisworks. And do that. And then if I like that, I can always save this, give it a name, and then email that to somebody so that way they actually see what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Blue too. It looks like poly blue too.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. They are kind of merging certain things between the two of them. Now within here you can also do markups. So if I do see things in here, I can click on that. That takes you to the view that I saved. I can actually see the information in there. So that's just a simple one with a circle, but you can put text in there, clouds, that kind of information. Again, I can email that to different people. Got my activity screen. You have also attachments that you can put on there. Oh, actually, click on it. There we go. So in this view, I actually don't have any. But if I had something I wanted to add an attachment to, essentially all I'm doing is I'm clicking on objects. There we go. Telling it that I'd like to actually add an attachment to this. There we go. And then am I adding attachment as a file or as a URL? So if I have a piece of equipment, do I want to attach a PDF of a warranty, a cut sheet, a reviewer inspection notes, or do I want to put a URL to maybe the website of the manufacturer or something else? So that way I can actually put that on there. I can then send a notification to people saying, hey, this is up there, can you review this? And that way it all becomes a part of the project record.
Can you take files off of this?
Yes. Now, that comes into a couple of different things. Let me just go through the clashing, and then I'll hop into that, though. Now, more than likely, the big thing that you're going to see in here is probably the same thing as in Navisworks. It's a clash detection. When you come in here, you'll save them. The color coding is similar to Navis in that it's going to change depending on if it's a new clash, old clash, resolved. This tells you when it was last run, or it was created, sorry, how many clashes there are. If I click on that, show me what's going on. It's actually going to run through and see if anything's changed since the last time. And similar to Revit, what it's looking for is different elements. It's not like Navisworks where you're creating search sets. So in some cases, if I want to get really nuanced in terms of what I'm clashing against, I'm going to create that nuance with my views in Revit, because I can export out things turned on individually, things turned off individually, things on and off with filters. So I can kind of mimic some of that search set that I would get in Navisworks via Revit. I can also go through Navisworks into Glue as well. So this shows me these. That shows me if there's actually a comment on that one. I can actually turn things on and off through here. I can zoom in and out. And again, I can send an email to different parties and saying, hey, I want you to actually take a look at this or comment on it. Runs a clash, sends out an email, adds an attachment. I can get an email about it. So that way you can actually set things up. Now, you can't make email groups. That's usually a question that comes up. But what you actually can do is if you are the project manager, you can set up an email group in your office or somewhere else, and then have Glue email that group, which then disseminates it out to everybody else. Now, in terms of taking what you have up here and actually getting it back. So if you have everything on this model, if I come back out to the project, what you can actually do is download it. If I actually look at my model, open this up, I can always right-click on this and tell it I'd like to actually download it. The thing that's actually going to happen, though, oops, actually I'm opening it now, but if I look to download that file, and it's one of the files I uploaded from Revit, I am not downloading a Revit file. I'm actually downloading a DWF. That upload process converts that file into a DWF. If what you want to do is put Revit files up there for people to download Revit files, all you have to do is go in here and say upload model. In the process of, okay, if you want to do is go here and not go there, there we go, go to that, and you can drag and drop. If it's a file format that Glue reads natively, like DWGs, no problem. Just drag and drop it, you're fine. If it's a file format that it can't read, like a DWF, or like a doc file, a PDF, image files, it's just going to tell you that while I'll be able to host it here and store it here, you'll be able to view it here. So it's just letting you know that ahead of time. But there's nothing wrong with putting any file you want as long as you realize, are you using it for sharing and storage, or are you using this for coordination and viewing? Make sense? Perfect. You'll also notice that it says include folders. So if you have a folder structure that you prefer, you can literally drag and drop your folder structure on it. So that makes it a little bit easier to populate. Something like, how do you want your files to be organized? Now, in addition to that, that's if I just want to download the files from here. If I go back out here to Navisworks, clean up my view a little bit. This file here is the exact same thing that I was looking at. the way I got this was literally to say open. So when I'm here, I can actually say glue, and to say I want to actually take whatever model I have in Navisworks and send it up, same as I did inside of Revit. Or what I can actually do is open the file from the Glue web service. So we've been working on it in Glue. I had everybody uploading their file during the week. They're doing their own little coordination. But now I want to work in Navisworks. You know, I've got search decks. I've got a lot of other little things and tips and tweaks and things that I want to work with in here. I just download it directly from the service. I don't have to worry about pulling it from anywhere else. I still have all the properties that I had inside of Revit. I have all the properties that I had inside of Glue. It just comes across. So that way I can just work on it here. And if I have changes, or if I've turned a lot of things on or off and I want to send it to Glue, I just use the append button. And that can actually append certain things to that project. Now, that's if I want to pull down the files. That class report that I created, if I want to work with it, I can go into Revit, go back to Glue, I can say clash pinpoint. This shows but if you run that clash and you find a problem, whoever else is working on this, they open up their Revit in a completely different office, different state, wherever. They're able to pull down the clash that somebody else made. So if you find a clash that's hitting your work or somebody else's work that you're responsible for, but it's not your problem to fix, this way you can point out exactly what that is to the person who's modeling it. And then they can fix it on their end, upload that file directly from Revit. You can actually rerun the clash on your computer and confirm that everything works. And hopefully that one fix didn't break 3 or 4 other things. So that'll be somebody else's issue. So there's different ways of getting either the information or the model back out of Glue for you to actually work with. Yep, definitely. Yeah, if I'm inside of Glue, and it depends on if you want to do this overall or not. When I'm actually looking at my administration for the project, and there's different kinds of admins that you have, I can actually pick on different people. So I look at myself here. I can see what kind of notifications do I want based on project. So do I want to know when there's models, there's merge models, there's clash tests, things like that. Or if I find someone's deleting clash tests, I might want to know about that. Like, no, everything's fine, really. Things like that. The other thing you'll notice is if you haven't seen this in a while, there's actually a user type called reviewer. So I mentioned before that this is running off of a launcher. If what you are doing is you want someone to be able to work with this, but maybe they're not really going to be doing much work. They're not going to be merging models. These people who look at stuff. Or maybe they have a Mac, but they don't have any plans on doing anything virtual. So what you can actually do is if the person has reviewer rights, or honestly anybody who has normal rights but doesn't mind losing some of those abilities, they can actually log in. You want to use Chrome for this, but they can actually log in and access that model through here. And this will give them the ability to actually view the 3D model of views that have been specifically shared to that username. So like those notifications, those emails where I can make a view and I can share that with somebody. I can actually pick the file, go to the project. So there's that little warning, just making sure that you realize you're not going to have all the same features you want. If you do want all those, you will have to use the Windows app. And then I can actually wait for this to finish rendering, and then I can actually view my model. So.
All of this section of all but usually there's a work attached to it. I know when this initially came out, it was targeting kind of work and this format in one platform or one Glue. Do I have that ever come about, or do I still need a project management software for Newsform or whatever it may be
It depends on what you want to do with it. If you're using something like CNIC or CMIC for RFI, that actually can tie into your model. So that was one of the buttons I didn't look down here, set us up the exchange services. So if you wanted to tie that back and forth, you can do that. If you wanted to always include the comments, I can tie that in and use that as sort of that feature. If you're looking for something that is a little bit more, I almost want to say like Excel-based for tracking things like that, then I might look at something like Field or another tool that you're already using probably. Some people that are using this more for, I don't want to say asset management, but like facility management, they're actually tying this in with something like Maximum. So that way they can actually link that in. Since it can be run through a browser and you actually can plug into the API, you can almost have it running inside of something. That answer the question though? Kind of? It depends. This would probably be the best answer. But it's not exactly what you want yet. But
well, initially they try to protect both, the logs and maximum and use that as well as the Navisworks.
I think they're picking their battles now one at a time.
Now that they've been brought up by the people at Navisworks,
yeah.
Kind of what is the differentiation there between Navis and Google? One of them is here, the other one versus Signal. Will there be then alone products? How will they differ? And what will the advantages of online?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, there's definitely going to be two products, and I don't think that's going to change in at least the next 2 to 3 years, probably. That being said, everything is going to the cloud. If you've been looking online lately, there's a version of Revit that you can run as a trial that is cloud-based. Autodesk has a trial that's running, I think, until January, where you can run Max and I think 2 or 3 other programs on an Amazon cloud server. So essentially, you're running it in a browser, and it's the full version of Max. So you're not running it in a launcher like I am here. So they are looking at doing that. Now, granted, not everybody's going to have really good internet. So when you're running on the mobile application, both for Field or for Glue, part of the thing is I want to be able to use that in like the basement of this project with no Wi-Fi. So things like that with Glue, not exactly the best product at that point. So you're still going to have things where you're really installing. Other differentiators between the two is that you can do the quantification for Navisworks now. You have more nuance and control in terms of how you pick what you're flashing against. You have the ability to run 4D timeline renderings, which honestly, if you have the suite to get Navisworks, you're going to use Max for anyway. So a lot of things like that. Will they merge? Honestly, I'm not sure. It's funny because of Revit, they had Revit, then they had Revit building, then they had Revit building structure, Revit MEC system. Now you have Revit in sort of one box. So I could see them kind of eventually pulling things back together, but it's not going to be really soon. I'm sorry? Sure.
Now, I'm on a project. I'm using my Microdesk ID. Put it on him. You can use my ID.
Typically what you would do is you would give everybody in the project who's going to be working on that access to it, and they would have their own ID. Now, if you're okay with sharing your ID, that's fine. You're allowed to log in 3 times without having one getting bounced. So like if I'm logged in on the iPad, on Revit, and then in Glue, those are my 3 logins. So I'm kind of getting bounced here and there as I'm doing this. But the main reason not to share the login is if you really want to track who is doing what and when. So, and Autodesk has been changing how their pricing structure is. At first it was you pay per login, and they realized that that wasn't the best idea. So now it's you pay per the size of the project. So if you have 5 people in your office, you give out to each person if you want, or you just have one office-wide login. Just depends on how you prefer to manage it. Cool. Cool. Now, that's the desktop version. If you're running this on the iPad, so there actually is a mobile version. If I can get this turned on. Don't touch that. Cool. All right. So this is Glue on the iPad. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm looking at, again, same file, just for consistency. I can look at it. I can orbit it. If I see any issues with it, I can actually go over here and do markups, or I can actually view markups that are already created. somebody in the office or somebody out in the field says, hey, we need to fix this, I can immediately save it. I'm on Wi-Fi or I'm connected, I can sync that. Somebody in the office can see that, can fix it, send it out, and I can hopefully communicate that to the people in the field who are actually doing the work. That way I can actually go back and forth and view the 3D geometry. So if I need to, I can always click on objects and get their properties, or turn them on and off. So if there's information in the object, the circuit that's on, what that is, what file it came from, with the height and everything. So that's just the regular. I can make sure I open it up beforehand so I can actually see it wherever I end up going. So it's not so, in many ways it's a lot like the field app. You've seen that where you can synchronize it before you leave, do all your work, and then when you get out from the basement or that one dead spot where you have no service, I can then synchronize any of the work there. So this allows me to hop in, see whatever work I'm doing, pick the files that I want to look at. It loads them as long as I have internet, so I already have it locally. Then I hop in, and I can get measurements on things if I want to. And because sometimes it's a little hard to see what you're actually clicking on in 3D, let alone on touchscreen, it lets me know if there's any differences between the X, Y, and Z. So from my perspective, I clicked on two perfectly good things on the floor, and then I noticed that my Z elevation is 10 feet. That'll probably let you know if I clicked on something that was not the floor when I clicked on something else. Makes it a little bit easier to track what I'm actually doing. And then you can actually orbit and see that, so you can actually see graphically what it is that you put. Make sense? Any questions with that?
In Glue, when I've used it before, they had abilities to animate. Maybe.
Not on the mobile, but you can do certain little animations. It's not like Navisworks where when I get within 5 feet, I make a hot spot of the door opens up, and then when I get to the side, this happens. You're not doing that. So that's again one of the differences. But if you want to make a couple of different saved views and things like that, you can.
Exploded views?
You can pick objects and transform them. So it's the same terminology as Navisworks in terms of using like a move command. So it's the same thing where you'll get that red, blue, and green XYZ thing where you can move it. But if you also have to physically move, like people send you files but they don't line up, you can tell it specifically. I want you to move, 3'4" to east, X, Y, Z, and make sure it fits where it needs to, so you can run your clashes, with the files not like this, but actually on top of each other. That's all done with the actual service, not on the mobile app. Mobile app is more looking at, viewing, reading markups, making your own.
Recommended file size. Not go over.
Honestly, I've killed the mobile app a few times, and it's not with the file size. It usually depends on complexity and what's happening. So in terms of uploading from Revit to Glue, the only times I've had problems where I had to literally break a view up was a 60-story high-rise where I tried to export the piping all at once. The ductwork went across fine. The piping I had to break up into 3 different views. So I just kept on, okay, so let me move the cut plane down. Nope, cut plane down. Okay, that worked. Then I knew what my sort of limits were. I haven't necessarily seen a file size, but I'd say more the amount of faces on the geometry. Any questions on anything? Is anybody actually using this yet, or?
Yeah, we are.
You are? How are you liking it so far?
We just started using it in one of our projects, but so far so good.
Perfect. There are 2 things just to make sure that you're aware of, as well as everybody else. Nice thing about Glue is that it's a web service, meaning that if there's any changes, issues, or features that people are asking for, they can apply them very quickly. If anybody here is on field, you notice they almost update that like once every month. So the other benefit is that since it's a service everybody logs in, everybody's always in the same version. You don't have to worry about that with Revit. The two things to actually keep in mind right now, though, and the workaround currently is to actually go through Navisworks. If you're using colors and you have materials inside of Revit where you actually have sort of a bitmap. So let's say you have a brick wall, and when you render this, you actually want to see the brick pattern on it. That would be like, a JPEG assigned to it. That doesn't come across in glue at the moment. So one of the updates they did had an issue that caused it. If you go through Navisworks, it works fine. The other issue is with shared coordinates and project coordinates. Right now, it doesn't matter which one you choose, it's going with project. If all the files you have are the same, no worries. If you have files that are, some are projects, some are shared, all over the place, I would definitely bring your files into Navisworks and upload it from Navis. That way everything is nice and coordinated. So they are aware of it, they are working on it, should be soon. Just make sure everybody's aware of it. Yeah, coordinates are usually big. All good though? Cool. So that's sort of like the basic overview of Glue, sort of like a little bit of the workflow. You end up uploading typically from the authoring tool to that. You do all the coordination on that side. Hopefully it makes it easier for anybody to do that clash and then everybody else just to log in and actually see the results that help coordinate. Now, Sammy's actually been working with this. And I don't know if Snigdha is on mute or hopefully.
I haven't heard of it yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Snigdha, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Perfect.
Can
Morning.
you guys hear me?
Remote
I
connection.
think partially. You guys hear her? Partially? I'll turn around, I guess.
I guess you guys can start and I'll chime in as required.
Well, I think, Snigdha, I think Peter basically went over what we had to go over with the BIM 360 on his side. I think he's going to go
Yes.
your presentation now. Or your,
Okay.
I show, I guess, your experience.
Sure. You guys hear me properly or you want to start the slides and I'll chime in?
You have to scream. No, it's fine. Do you want to make her the presenter? Would that help? Or
No, I can see the slides. No worries.
Just let me know when to change the slide.
Okay. So basically, I'm sorry I couldn't be there today, but thank you all for coming. And just to give you an overview of Sciame for who do not know Sciame. Sciame is recognized throughout the tri-state area for its builder of choice for highly designed and technically sophisticated projects. Sciame brings about 38 years of history of proven track records for completing a wide range of buildings and interior spaces on time, within budget, and for demanding clients. Sciame's accessibility and responsiveness to and attention to details have earned Sciame a reputation of having integrity, passion for its work. Our Sciame, I'll just jump into BIM right away. Darren, who's there, he's our VP and runs the MEP and the BIM development program at Sciame. He's in a very short time. We've all tremendously grown within Sciame with all his great input in everything we do in terms of technology. Then we're using BIM on multiple of our projects, mainly for visualization, 4D construction, 4D sequencing, and a lot in coordination. A lot of our MEPs are coordinated on a literally 5-day basis and then, installed at site. And you'll see that in a couple of upcoming projects that I will show later on. And then our goal, BIM goal, is basically, since we pride in our construction and our quality, as construction managers, we set high standards of quality to satisfy on all project requirements. BIM is an integral tool to achieve this. It has helped Sciame on multiple projects to accelerate project schedule with real-time coordination, resolve issues prior to construction, and that minimizes rework and improves the quality. Some of our current projects in BIM are, I think, 5 or 6 projects currently going on. The Princeton University, which is a very complex very detailed project, small space, and a lot of MEPs going in. CUNY, we just started on BIM with 360. Grace Farms, Culture Shed, there's upcoming projects, Columbia, as well as the 34 East 51st Street. Next slide, Peter, please. All right, this is just a basic view of our Princeton project, whereas on top right, you see the coordination. That's how we do our coordination every day at the site. And at the bottom, you're seeing the model being used by various trade contractors, going over site logistics, sequencing, and all that good stuff, because that's critical for the construction at sites. Building, which is going to be a silver, LEED silver accredited building, mainly consists of labs, offices, clean rooms, auditorium, and mechanical spaces. It's this complex is extensive with its mechanical services and the specialized clean room. The City Tech academic building is 350,000, I think, square feet. Again, with a lot of labs, auditorium. It's a huge tower of 12 floors, and a gymnasium. Next, please. All right. So for any project, first foremost, we analyze, what the client requirements are and what the client is going to use the BIM model for. So in terms of Princeton as well as CUNY, it's multidisciplinary BIM model management for various trades. That's architectural, structural, all MEP trades, specialty models, as well as, anything and everything. We have very detailed, from a big equipment to a small valve. Everything is detailed, coded, because eventually they want to use this model for facilities and operations, and link it to Maximo for their asset management use. This is a fully coordinated in real time, every day, 5 days a week. We coordinate this, and it's all 100% coordinated before we go to site. We're touchwood, we've had very minimal, changes or anything that we've had to do so far. And we've been using BIM 360 for this project. Next, please. All right, so this is the basic workflow for BIM 360, as Peter explained about the different features. So we initialize the project, laying out the BIM execution guide, which details out various folder structures, naming conventions, filing, equipment tagging, properties. We have a method that we want to follow through, so we let all our contractors, trade contractors, know that this is what we would like them to do. So as soon as the project is initialized in the BIM 360, we send an invite out to the trade contractors and add them to the project. We then add the architectural model, usually whatever the design team has given us, and they do most of the times update with major changes and stuff like that. So those models are added and followed by the fabrication model, because those are two critical models. And alignment is something that is very critical here, making sure that the coordinates match. We set up a point of alignment so that the trade contractors are using that information to model their information, HVAC, plumbing, or any other trades. So once the fabrication model is up, as well as the architecture model is up, we then have a schedule laid out, which kind of piggybacks to the main schedule in terms of how the building is going to be built. And that's how we go around in our coordination. We split the buildings into smaller areas so that we can be more effective in an area, complete an area, move on to the next one. So a typical coordination process, just like any other, which we did back in just when we had the Navisworks. But the good part about this is the models are available in real time. So there's no really FTP, no really exchange, sending emails that, oh, I've uploaded a model, etc., etc. You get a notification from the Glue that a model has been updated. It tells you what time, who's updated it. So you just go into Glue, download, and you can bring it in your model. Of course, if you're using AutoCAD, it's a DWG format. You download it as is. You can use it as is. In terms of Revit files, it's a little bit of a challenge because it's a DWF. So we do mandate, exchanging of either like a DWG so that people can bring that in their CAD if in case they're using CAD as their base program, and then be able to align everything together. Uploading the model, as Peter showed, is very simple. Glue it into your main authorizing software, and then that uploads to the Glue. You don't have to log out, log back in, or anything of that side. And then the alignment of models, it's only done one time. Once it's aligned, it will stay through the life of the project. And BIM 360 allows, the flexibility of having this information back and forth. It allows you to have versioning. That's critical because you want to track changes that's being done and on a daily basis, because many times you find contractors just telling you, yeah, we've uploaded the model, but they haven't done any changes. So once this step is done, the BIM coordinator will create the merge models. Anybody can create merge models, run clashes, but we like to just keep it so that one person is really handling that. And those merge models get they are one-time creating again, and they get updated as and when a model is updated. And with, I think, the 2014, there's the option of downloading those merge models, and they can directly be brought into Navisworks if at all required. So once you go through this process multiple times, make it clash-free, we have a sign-off, we sign off, and then this information is sent to the various stakeholders. They also generate the 2D shop drawings. The field staff is given this information, and as the approvals come along and you have your construction going on site, with the mobile app, the field guys are using this information to really see and install it at site. Next, please. Okay, so this is a view. On one side you see the Navisworks interface wherein you're seeing the various clashes. On the other side is the Glue interface. The good part about Glue is it groups the similar clashes as together. So you're not really going through that one clash n number of times. So you can go into one area and see that clash, and wherever it's clashing, it will all show up at one time. So this is very, very helpful, especially in the initial stage. What we at Sciame do is, in the beginning, we're using Glue primarily for clash running, because there are thousands and thousands of clashes, and it just helps everybody utilizing this information that groups and the notification information and stuff like that. But when we come to sign off, we try to use Navis still because we're just more familiar, I guess, and it's a little more clearer to identify where specific clashes are, especially when you go into very complex mechanical systems. Then what else? And then with this clashes, there's no exchange of like PDFs or reports, so you don't have to generate anything of that sort. What I see here in my Glue login in the project, in the clashes, the trade contractors will see the same thing, so they can go into it, toggle into the various clashes, update as required, and then go on from there. Next, please. Okay, so this is another view where you can section, just similar to Navis, but quite a good sectioning tool available in Glue. And we can section it through the areas, see the areas in more detail, if required more attention, and then go from there. Properties. Now, properties is something that is very critical when you're using this information for asset management or maintenance, to see what each equipment is or your pipes are. So if you see over here, it will outline where the model is located, what area it is, what system is connected to it, what equipment model number, and what level it is, and what area it is. So you can easily identify within that one window every detail about that equipment. You can also attach the various submittals to it by the hyperlinking. And that way it will take you to the information that is your cut sheets, your warranties, and anything that you attach to it. Next, please. Okay, now this is sharing of information. As Peter showed about the iPad, that's been a very useful tool for us, especially at the site, where our trade contractors are using that to install as they go along. Even the client, we've seen, and we ourselves, we go with our iPad, make sure it's installed as per the model, and then come back. In case we do find any discrepancies, it's very easy to point out. You don't have to take a picture, think about where it is located, and then come and see in your computers. So some of the importance about sharing this with the various stakeholders, it's real time. You can even see the views, clashes, markups, anything that you've gone through during the coordination process. It's all available there. All that conversation is available there in case you need it. And then any team members can check any activities that's occurred, read notices, read the clash report, and you really don't need a BIM expertise to really view this model, because the app is a great app in terms of just turning on and off the different views and different notes. That is all there. Again, with the properties, you can even see those properties within the app. Next, please. All right, this is some of the site photos that we are installing. This is how we compare. This is the plumbing stack. So on one side you see the model, on the other side you see the site information. So it's very easy, and you have the real information. You're seeing it right there and installing it as we model out. If any discrepancies are there, model is updated, or if it is installed incorrectly, it has to be then corrected. Next, please. This is again similar site installation. The risers, the plumbing and the duct, the piping and the duct coming up. Again, it's based on how we have modeled, how we have coordinated, and then being installed at the site. We also model all these hangers, so we know in advance where each trade has their hangers going in, so that there's no conflict at the site. Next, please. Okay, so these are some of the benefits of which we've seen through. The project folder layout, which is, I think, a very good feature about Glue, which cannot be even replicated in Navis, especially when you have a number of files. I can show you my Glue a little later, but that's something that we've really has helped us identifying each areas, each models. Then the various multidisciplinary model management is good. Then real time, all the information is available. As I said, no exchange of emails or FTPs or anything of that sort. Then anything that you create, models, splashes, or sketches, they're available right there. It shows you the latest version of whatever you have uploaded. Then the versioning is very useful to us because we are able to see what the different changes are and find especially even when there's design changes, we can see in terms of change orders what was previously done versus what the new change orders are, so we can compare that information. Then publishing to Glue and then using it in Navis is also good with 2014, and it's easily to share with the project teams, using the iPad, and that's for the site primarily that we've been using pretty much every time. Next, please. Okay, so this I think Peter went on quite detailed about the iPad. The only thing I would like to add is you can measure in the iPad, which again is a good tool, especially at site. You can measure right there. If any information is required, create walkthroughs to see the space. Then access to the models, to everybody is available on a immediate basis. I guess that's about it. That's about it from my side. If you guys have questions, happy to answer.
Thanks, Snigdha. Anybody have any questions for you? Good. How can you? Yeah. Anything else? Nope.
I have a question. There's one aspect where you're able to take measurements using the iPad.
Yeah.
How would you go about doing something like that?
How would I?
How would you do that using the?
Okay. Back up. You guys. It was so happy before. But while I wait for this to try to wake up and actually connect back again, essentially, you notice that screen right over there? Mm-hmm. So essentially what you would do is there's a little button down here, looks like a measuring tape. Same button that you would have inside of Revit, that same look. You would click on that, and you would order view so that you can see what you're looking for. And essentially when you click, it doesn't try to snap to endpoints or edges. So then you say, okay, well, where do I want to go to? And it tells you. And once you've done it, you're actually in a little window in the upper left-hand corner that tells you not just the length, but also the delta for X, Y, and Z. So that way, you're looking at it in sort of a head-on view, and it looks like you hit on two flat surfaces. So if you turn it the other way, you're actually up in the air. It gives you an idea of, even if you get to pick the two right spots, oh, well, that's the delta in, this plane. That's still what I'm looking for. So this helps you read what you're looking for, even when this won't, show it. Any other questions or anything?
No.
Guys, thank you very, very much for coming out, and we're going to start. Thank you. Definitely, if you have a chance, log on to the meetup page, post up suggestions for, how often you'd like the meetings to happen, once a month, or every other month, if you want to always in the same spot, what topics are you interested in? That way we can make sure that, the stuff that I am presenting or asking other people to present, and if you want to present it, that'd be great. I can sit back and watch for a change. Want to make sure the stuff is what you guys are actually interested in.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It is a meetup, it's not formal.
That's exactly what we do when you. I mean,